Hello, Slop. Hello, my little sloppers, and sorry for not having a lot of videos the past 2 months on this channel. Obviously, been very busy on the main channel, got a lot of big stuff going on over there, but I'm back now. It's January, the ad rates have plummeted, and my time is worth half, so I might as well waste it talking to you guys. Alright, today's video topic, if you can't read the title, is quite simple. What's next? Specifically, what should be next for Hearts of Iron 4? Because, you know, it's a brand new year, and with a brand new year means brand new content for you to spend money on. But I do really want to focus on what I think should be added to the game and what's really lacking and what's needed. I also put out a community post over on the channel community page thing asking you guys what you wanted to see in the game, and we'll get to that in a little bit. First off, you've got to listen to me ramble though. That's right, biatches call me Alex the way I'm rambling today. Okay, first thing I'm going to talk about is the fact we already know what is technically coming in the next bit of content for Hearts of Iron 4, which is Graveyard of Empires. It already got announced with the brand new DLC. And it's essentially a whole bunch of content for Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, and the British Raj. If they slip any smaller nations in there, I'm assuming it might be for Nepal and Bhutan, you never know, that could be in there, but then again, they didn't give us a Luxembourg focus tree, so they could go to hell. Now, this will be a same piece of DLC, just like Trial of Allegiance, so I'm assuming a lot of people aren't going to be too happy with it, but I think more people will be happy with it overall, because obviously it is a bit of an area that did have more of a historical reason to be in this game. And I know obviously South America did do stuff in World War II, but then again, the British Raj was quite literally on the front lines in multiple theaters. Same actually goes for Iraq and Iran. Like, Iraq did get invaded, obviously, by the British. It was a bit of a will they, won't they in joining the Axis. Iran, same kind of deal, not so much joining the Axis though, as much as getting invaded. But it was a very crucial supply route for the British and the Soviets, so it does make sense that this area gets a nice touch-up. Plus, I think out of all the Dominion powers and the Together for Victory nations that got added, the British Raj is one that really needs their focus tree updated. There's a lot of possibility and a lot of fun that I imagine you could have with India, but unfortunately, you can't, because this is what you got to work with. But yeah, going back to the Trial of Allegiance stuff, obviously, a lot of people weren't happy with that. Not a lot of people wanted to pay a lot of money down to play in South America. It's still a very good DLC, in my opinion, in terms of the focus trees it added. Obviously, you know, for the price, that is a whole other point of contention that we won't go into. So I think more people will probably be happier with this one, although I don't think everyone will be happy with this one. But then again, it's not something you 100% need to play the game anyway. It's just a whole bunch of focus trees. Don't expect any new features or anything in this DLC. So we know that's coming to the game. We won't have to go too much into that, because obviously I'll be making a I'll be making a videos on it at some point, my little sloppers. Okay, so now let's get our thinking caps on and go on our schizophrenic rambles on what we think needs to be added to the game. First off, one thing that you guys really said, and that I already assumed, is that Japan and Asia needs a massive rework. Yeah, I think it's safe to say Japan is certainly, of all the major powers, now the one lacking horrendously. Yeah, it is really funny, because Japan did get a rework on their focus tree when Waking the Tiger came out originally, and yeah, it's not a bad focus tree, especially when it came out, but now it's certainly not that great. Especially for a nation like Japan that had a lot to do, you quickly run out of a lot to do as Japan in the game. I mean, if you go down the main historical branch here, obviously a lot of this stuff is pretty much, you know, straightforward. Focus tree gives you research, a bit of factory, a bit of mobilization, a bit more manpower, and then you can just go ahead and fly planes into boats, which is great. You know, that is a feature Japan gets. But if we would look down here in terms of like expansion and how quickly it happens, you quickly realize that you run out of stuff very suddenly. If you assume that you do the Marco Polo Bridge incident over here, you've done 1, 2, 3, 4 little focuses right there, and then you don't even have to do Secure China, so then you move on to Strike South Doctrine. That gives you Indochina, and then you do one more focus over here, and then you're on to fighting the Allies. That's it. That is literally all you do as Japan. So if you actually look at your expansion here, you have 1, 2, 2 areas of expansion, not including Strike South, which gives you a decision. I mean, like, realistically, you could go ahead. You could bypass the Philippines and just fight the Allies, so you never have to fight the US, which I'm assuming some people do, but, you know, it ain't too great. I think if you're playing as Japan, you want to fight the entire world, because that's the fun in Japan. But yeah, what I'm getting at is there's not a lot to do as Japan, and I think a lot of these could probably be spread out a bit more, maybe give you some other avenues of expansion too. That could be really great. Obviously, it's kind of hard when the big block you're fighting and all the nations will be in one big faction, but I think it could work a little better. So assuming we get a Japan rework, then we're obviously also probably going to get a Manchukuo rework, which, yeah, again, same reasons that I've kind of mentioned with Japan there. Manchuria is pretty straightforward. You either break free from Japan over here or stay with Japan over there. There's nothing else to it, really. Yeah, it could definitely have a whole bunch of potential for Manchuria. You know, that ain't too surprising. And I'm assuming if we get a Manchukuo and a Japan rework, then we may also get China being retouched up too. I'm not too sure the scope they're really going to go on with this rework. They could just go a little balls to the wall and do all of the Wake in the Tiger countries, which I'm not entirely sure if they're going to do that. Again, this is just everyone assuming that the next big rework they're going to do will be on Japan, because obviously they've already done Germany and Italy, and the one nation that really needs it is Japan. Yeah, so this could be all wrong completely, and Paradox could just swivel and we get the Mexico focus tree round too. But yeah, I think in worst case scenario, it ain't even worst case scenario, because I would be really happy with Japan rework, is that they also throw the Philippines in there and you get Japan, Manchukuo, and then obviously later on you get a China rework at some point. But, you know, I would be a little bit sad if they're not, you know, all of the Wake in the Tiger ones put together reworked. But we'll see, you know, can't ask for too much with these people. So, if Japan does get reworked, you gotta think, what features do you want in the game? And there's not a lot of features left for them to realistically add, if you think about it. We've already got spies, sure, you know, they're not perfect. We've got the market now. Obviously, last DLC, we got special projects. So where exactly are they going to be actually adding features to this game going forward? And I think that's definitely a real tricky area. One that I do have like a little inkling that it could be, and it ain't for 100%, but I do think the way factions work in this game could be reworked heavily. The addition of the shared focus trees that a couple different nations can now get, this could be a pretty good thing for a lot of factions in the game. I mean, specifically, I'm looking at the UK here, and obviously the Dominions and the Allies in general, especially the branch over here for forming the, where the hell is it? It's over here somewhere. There you go. Forming the Imperial Federation. This could definitely be added to the, like, Dominion shared focus tree or something like that. And even, I think, looking at the China focus tree, if you'll go over to the right, obviously you have the invite foreign investors thing. This could also be a shared focus tree if you form the United Front or something like that. You know, there's a lot of possibility here for this to be added to a lot more factions, which I think would be good. But specifically, I want the entire faction system in this game to be reworked. Right now, there's no mechanics or flavor to the faction system in the game. You simply just, you know, you click a button when the button becomes available, and I think that's kind of cheap. Obviously, I don't have every idea in my head exactly how you could rework this, but I think it definitely needs a bit more of a touch-up, and there could be so much fun stuff that you could have actually added to having a better faction system that both could aid the game in the way it is now, where obviously, if you're adding nations like Iraq and Iran, you want to do a lot of expansion, obviously. And if you get world tension up, an arbitrary number, guess what? They could just go ahead and now get guaranteed by the UK and join a faction. You know, so for a game that started off being pretty, you know, straightforward historically, if you think about it, and not so much a sandbox, the game is kind of evolving to more of a sandboxy experience in terms of the focus trees being added. So reworking the faction system to actually fit into that and actually make sense so that you don't just have to deal with the UK hitting the arbitrary guarantee independence button, that'd be great. kind of like HOI4. You know, I can't specifically remember HOI4, but I know they had democratic leanings, a new leaning towards politics in general. You know, it's a simplification. I'm sure people who remember HOI4 and have played it in the past 10 years, because I can't remember the last time I touched that game. But actually having nations have to sway into a faction would be way better, in my opinion, than just having them click a button and they're in. You know, it definitely could work a lot better. You know, obviously there could be different examples of that and different ways that could be broken, specifically like Poland, because Poland's, you know, swaying them into the Allies at some point could be, considering their politics, it could be a little bit difficult, and obviously you need the guarantee for the historical game to actually take place. But I think definitely a good faction system in this game could be a lot of fun. Obviously you get to a point in a game's lifespan, especially with Paradox, when there's too much bloat, but I do think there is a bit of wiggle room here where the faction system could become something a bit more than click button and join. There's just a lot of possibilities. Obviously, if you had this mystical faction rework, you could have obviously Lend-Lease work through it, you could have group projects, you could have group buildings, like special plans and stuff that you could work to actually doing stuff like D-Day. That'd be great, in my opinion. You know, speaking of raids, actually, you know, Japan, we were just talking about Japan. I think definitely, okay, it's going to be a little hard to rework, but I'm not the game developer here. But if we do get a Japan focus rework, somehow they gotta implement Pearl Harbor into this game. That's right. I want Pearl Harbor. Yeah, it's gonna be real tricky to actually go off, but I think you definitely gotta put something in. I'm pretty sure the old Japan focus tree actually did have a focus for Pearl Harbor. It didn't really work though. It was pretty broken because it did require the US actually being based over in Hawaii, which, you know, the AI would never do. Yeah, all that could be old Road 56 or something. I can't remember. It's been a very long time since I looked at the old Japan focus tree, but I'm pretty sure it was in there. But now with the addition of raids, obviously, it doesn't have to be in Pearl Harbor. I mean, if you can get the range, surely you should be able to do a strike on the American fleet to get the war started. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, obviously, trying to plan something like that and have the AI be reliable in it. But, you know, I do think Japan needs it real bad. I mean, even if it just gives the US a debuff at the start of the game, you know, it'd be really good, because if you ever see my US games, it is so easy just to rush Japan down at the start and just completely destroy them and get them out of the war, like within a year, even less than that. Which, it's obviously a lot of brain work to actually get this to a point where it could work, and I'm sure Paradox have probably thought of something if they are reworking Japan, so, you know, I'm not asking too much here, just for a little bit, you know, just a smidgen of this working. But yeah, I can understand if they don't, because that could be a lot of pain in the bollocks to actually get, you know, working, considering the AI and where their fleets will be. But yeah, you know, that ain't for me to do. Get the work Paradox. So obviously we've talked about the new faction system, which I think would be great. I obviously included in that faction system, I think it's time for guarantee independence to go. Like I said, with the game moving towards a bit more leeway on the sandboxy stuff, I think guarantee independence does nothing but annoy you. Whereas I think getting a nation into a faction and actually having it work potentially could work a lot more like the Monroe Doctrine does now with the US. And obviously this could be built into the faction system, but yeah, guarantee independence is definitely showing its age in my opinion. Having this instead work throughout like this, you know, theoretical faction system could be a lot better, but I do think it is time for this button to go and for the UK guarantee of death to disappear forever. I mean, obviously, if you destroy the world enough and get enough world tension, that guarantee should still come back up, but it should go back up not through just immediate click guarantee. It should actually require a bit of effort to get a nation guaranteed. Okay, so that's what I think should be added to the game next. Japan rework, big faction rework. But what do you guys think the game should be reworked with? What should be added? What should be removed? Let's go read your nonsensical writings. Okay, so first off, just like I've been saying, every single one of you want the Japan rework along with the Pacific and China and all that stuff. So we already talked about that. We all agree Japan sucks. Okay, this one's pretty interesting. I think they need to go through a bunch of old focus trees and do freshen up, basically making a lot of 7-day focuses, 35-day focuses, especially for Battle for the Bosphorus Nations, and a couple more focuses to reflect the changes over the years, actually making existing focuses work properly and give balanced benefits. That So unsurprisingly, 100% needs to happen. Paradox did a few of these kind of little updates over the past couple summers where they've added some stuff to old nations and fixed stuff, specifically ones I can think of is Canada. You can now actually do both sides of your little folks over here and not just get industry or manpower. And they did a little bit for India as well, but yeah, I do think they really need to go harder, especially in the downtime. Like, I would much rather they didn't give us another country pack next after Graveyard of Empires. Instead, focus that time on simply updating all of the older nations' focus trees that aren't going to ever be touched. I mean, I ain't naming any names here, but I am just going to open up this unspecified country's focus tree just for a second or two. Okay, one of the things you guys seem to be posting a lot is for a better peace deal system. Hey, honestly, I do think that actually having the conditional surrender button actually work, or potentially being able to do a peace conference that, you know, could be mediated, not potentially in the grander scope, say, you know, like World War II, you know, that makes sense that you kind of have to go all the way, especially with Germany. But, you know, if you were like Bulgaria and you wanted to actually offer peace to the Soviets, maybe that should be allowed, you know, and shouldn't be so hard-coded and locked away for very specific requirements. Obviously, there's a lot to go into it, but again, with smaller nations as well, let's say that you were Iraq and you were invading Iran or Saudi Arabia, and, you know, they got guaranteed by the UK, maybe you should be able to offer the UK a peace offer if you're holding out against them, because obviously they've got more important things to do. There's definitely a lot of wiggle room to get peace conferences in HOI4 to not specifically the big war, obviously World War II, or any large major war against major, you know, it could have a bit more wiggle room. I think that's agreed by everyone. Okay, this is a really good one, and one that has actually, unsurprisingly, been added by mods in some way or another, but maybe a way to lower world tension when there are no active wars, so nations also have to lower their army and militarization. The way the game can last longer without every nation eventually having 100 plus units and slowing the game down to a halt. Like I said, with the game moving a bit more sandboxy and having a lot more content to do, especially after the war, because a lot of folks, you know, do continue past that now, you could actually put demobilization into the game. I definitely do think there should be a way to lower world tension, specifically if you've already raised a whole bunch of world tension and then you're kind of screwed for the rest of the time frame of the game because it goes down so slowly. But heck, if you're even a democratic like the US nation and you've taken over Germany, you've annexed some, like parts of it, you get world tension from that. It's so dumb. And then you get kicked out the allies. So again, this could work into the faction rework I was talking about. Actually, there should be a way that you can, you know, appease the allies, you know, do something to actually lower this damn number so that they don't hate you. Plus, I do think it'd be really fun to watch the AI actually kind of dynamically demobilize, maybe decommission old equipment in their stockpiles so the game, again, doesn't lag to a halt, maybe convert military factories into civs, etc., etc. It could work, and it definitely is something Paradox should look into. So yeah, the vast majority of your guys' suggestions are relating, obviously, to the Japan rework and a diplomacy rework, along with the peace deals and stuff like that. There's a few more in there that I thought were interesting, but the video is probably quite long already, so I want to leave it off for the comments. I want you guys to leave all your suggestions down below so I can have a good read of those. Or, you know, if there's something we haven't even talked about, I didn't even think of, or no one in the community post thought of, why don't you go ahead and leave a suggestion down below? I'd actually love to read them, because we might do another go around a video like this a few months from now, you know, after Graveyard of Empires comes out. We can really look at where this game is probably going to end up going. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video, my little sloppers, and you've got some interesting ideas on where the game might go or what you'd like to see added, because obviously we got a lot more life left in this game to go, so it's going to be interesting to see what could be reworked, fixed, added, who knows. But yeah, goodbye.